This week on Money Matters, the wage peak system is key to the government's drive to overhaul the labor market and create more jobs for young talent. But it doesn't come without debate. Going beyond garbage, it can actually become a lucrative resource of growth through waste management and all while keeping the environment green. If you find yourself in need of a break, we have some great options lined up as we look at companies scrambling to capitalize on modern-day fatigue. What stories matter in Asia? We'll look at the changing landscape of business in Korea and the rest of Asia on Money Matters. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Il-sun. Thanks for joining us once again. Today on our front page, we're looking at Korea's labor market. The country's youth unemployment rate stands at roughly 10%, 2.5 times that of the overall jobless rate. The climb has much to do with the fall in new hires from companies, prompting the government to announce its major push for labor reforms. At the center of this all is the wage peak system.
정부는 우리 경제의 재도약을 위한 첫 번째 과제로 노동 개혁을 강력하게 추진해 갈 것입니다.
In an address to the nation, President Park Geun-hye last month announced a strong will to transform the country's labor market. Facing a shortage in jobs and a huge wage gap among many workers, the government pinpointed it as an element holding back growth in the economy. Core measures to transform the country's workforce include reducing the number of irregular workers and finding ways to enhance employment safety nets, while putting a stronger emphasis on performance and output instead of seniority. There's also getting companies across the country to adopt the wage peak system. Starting next year, a new law will kick in, making it mandatory for companies to raise their retirement age to 60. Facing higher employment costs, many firms are expected to adopt wage peak system. But the workers raise questions whether the money saved on the senior employees will actually be used to create more jobs for young people. In Korea, wages typically continue to climb from the point of entry based on seniority. But the wage peak system is designed to cut back on salaries after peaking at a certain age in return for a guarantee of work until retirement. With a saved cost, companies are encouraged to add on more new hires. In the case of Japan, which has a salary system similar to Korea, the wage peak system began spreading in the 70s. In return for lower wages, workers are able to extend their employment.
In most of Oriental society, we have a seniority-based wage system and also the lifetime employment system. As our Oriental East Asian economy are opening, that means that our degree of competition in the global market increases. We have no choice but change our employment system and the wage system. But this is very, very difficult because this means a change of our culture. But we have no choice but change because we must compete with the Western countries in the US and the UK and the Eurozone, etc.
According to a study by Korea Economic Research Institute, if the wage peak system is adopted from 2016 to 2020, it means companies can save $22 billion. With this, firms can add on 310,000 new jobs for regular workers. But this is based on calculations that employees will actually stay on until they hit retirement age. Surveys indicate that 67% say they will opt to retire early, raising doubts as to whether the peak payment system will work.
지금 우리나라에서 도입되는 임금 피크제는 깎는 걸 전제로 합니다. 어느 노동자가 저축과 노후 보장이 안 돼서 동의하겠느냐라는 측면이 있죠. 결국은 임금 피크제뿐만이 아니라 이런 장시간 노동을 줄여서 그 자리를 신규 고용을 창출하는 일자리 나누기도 같이 해야 되고요.
What's it actually like for companies that have already adopted the wage peak system? This manufacturing company rolled out the payment system in 2007 after management reached an agreement with the workers. it has led to 100 new hires each year and a boost in employment stability thanks to a large workforce with extensive experience.
임금 부담은 좀 덜면서도 또 고용을 안정시키고 그 다음에 그 사람들의 숙련된 노동을 또 회사가 유지할 수 있기 때문에
With a greater push to adopt a peak system, Korea's Hyundai Motor has also jumped on board. As of the second half of this year, 176 business arms out of the total 378 operated by the country's 30 largest conglomerates have announced plans to roll out the wage peak system. But some say it's designed mostly for big businesses. In order to see greater reforms, they argue more measures need to be implemented, such as boosting hiring competitiveness for small and mid-sized firms.
우리나라 사회 구조가 경제 산업 구조가 9988 사회라고 그러거든요. 99%가 1000명 미만의 중소 영세 기업입니다. 그리고 거기에서 일하는 노동자의 비율이 88%. 그래서 9988 사회라고 그러거든요. 오히려 더 많은 인력을 창출할 수 있는 기업과 사업체는 중소영세기업이라는 거예요. 결국 그러면 정부가 중소영세기업의 세제 지원을 어떻게 하고 원하청 간격을 좁혀서 이 자리에 청년 일자리를 창출할 것인지, 그리고 왜 청년들이 중소기업에 안 가는지 그 지원 정책을 사실은 이야기를 같이
Korea is stepping up efforts to transform the labor market and bid for further growth in the economy. For the first time in 5 months, leaders from labor, management, and the government have restarted negotiations. They have also agreed to create a consultative body to discuss the implementation of the wage peak system by public institutes. The wage peak system has been considered as one of the greatest points of emphasis for the current administration. Since reforming the labor market has been considered a hurdle for the country to clear before we can move forward. But in order to do so, the labor, the management, and the government all need to do their own parts and share the burden. Markets around the world closed the month of August with the worst performance seen in years, reeling from the sell-off sparked by China. We're going to look at some other stories from the week with Somi Sorang.
Thank you, Hassan. I'll start you off with some of the top headlines from Korea. Samsung has officially launched its newly merged business arm Samsung C&T this week. The new company, composed of the former C&T operation and Tail Industries, aims to achieve the goal of $50 billion in revenue and $3.4 billion in pre-tax profits by the year 2020. The unit seeking to gain a stronger toehold in the bio industry, as well as secure a top place in the global industries of fashion and leisure. The merger has widely been seen as a move to pave the way for leadership succession within the conglomerate, giving Lee Jae-yong, the son of Chair Lee Gon-hye, a stronger grip on affiliates. Korean outbound shipments to China have posted a record high in terms of market share for imports in the world's second largest economy. According to Korea International Trade Association, the proportion of imports to China in the first 6 months of this year rose by 1 percentage point, clocking in at 10.7%, the first time to achieve double-digit figures. Meanwhile, Seoul's exports to Vietnam have outperformed those coming in from Japan, placing Korea in 4th place. As of the end of July, exports to the Southeast Asian country grew to $16.3 billion, with much of the increase being attributed to a spike in intermediary goods shipments. And now a look at some stories from other parts of Asia and around the world. More than 8 million homes in Japan have been abandoned, becoming a headache for local governments. This comes as the rapidly aging population leaves behind old homes, but younger generations fail to buy them up. What's interesting is that the problem was once unique to farming communities and small cities, but is now spreading and becoming more noticeable, even in suburbs close to sprawling metropolises. Experts warn that in the next 2 decades, roughly a quarter of Japan's homes could be left without tenants. Margin debt on Chinese bourses have shrunk by 1 trillion yuan, or $156 billion over the past 2 months. This comes as stock traders pull out of accounts opened on borrowed money, facing record plunges on the country's exchanges. Some analysts say without high levels of margin lending, the market will not be able to sustain strong growth, having been fueled by a hike in leverage earlier in the year. Others say that the drop is a sign that speculative trading is on the fall, which may lead to feeble performances in the short run, but will be beneficial in the long term. And a new report shows that economic losses caused by illiteracy of roughly 800 million people around the world will cost the global economy $1.2 trillion this year. According to the World Literacy Foundation, countries with larger GDPs face higher costs stemming from illiteracy as it leads to a greater reduction in business productivity. The US topped the list in terms of costs, with China and Japan trailing behind. Illiterate people can earn up to 42% less in income and struggle at work and with healthcare, also increasing the danger of accidents.
On our next segment, we'll be looking at the growth in industries around the world and how that ties in with ways of making money. Today, we'll be looking at a typically unwanted guest, trash, and the potential behind it. Today, we are joined by Ole Duvnov, a strategist at the Asia Institute. Ole, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Ole, we all seem to understand that trash can possibly become natural resources of various forms, but can you tell us how those garbage can actually become money?
Well, if you throw away trash, somebody has to collect it and to process it. This creates a transaction, and if there is a transaction, then there's a profit-making opportunity.
Well, that's clear enough. Can you tell us more?
Just if we look at Korea, according to Frost & Sullivan Consultancy, there has been over $22 billion of economic activity which has been created just in the past year. And if we look at the global market, then that's a $1 trillion industry worldwide in waste management.
Did you say $1 trillion?
That's a $1 trillion industry, and there's a lot of option to make money.
Well, that's not a small market to look into. I'm very tempted. Well, let me give you a second question. If you can actually convert those trash into actual money, how does one actually do it in a specific examples?
You can have plastic to create textile and clothes. Then you can take old smartphones and extract gold out of the parts. Then you also have dirty water, which you can make clean drinking water.
Well, that sounds very interesting, and that's a very good way to start. How about if I were a business owner, possibly looking at this industry to go in, what other options do I have for the industry sector?
Well, you have collection, which has been historically the biggest market at 40 to 50% market share, but it has high costs, so it's not easy to enter that market. Then you also have landfill, where you collect and you move it and forget it. That's historically the biggest market in developing countries. Then you also have recycling, the fastest growing segment at over 10% and owning 20 to 30% market share. Finally, you have incineration, where you burn trash to create energy. And this is about 10 to 20% market share, with especially high growth in Asia.
Well, we see some clear paths out there. Out of those 4 sectors in the industry, is there any area particularly that Korean companies doing, some other good job?
Out of the $1 trillion global market, Asia accounts for half of the market. And Korea is one of the top 5 leading nations in the Asia Pacific, particularly in the collection and recycling. Now, construction and demolition has been owning about 60% of the market share. So Korean companies have developed certain expertise which might be used in the global markets.
Well, sounds very exciting. In terms of the global market on a global scale, is there any countries out there doing the best practices that we can learn from?
2 countries come into my mind, Sweden and Japan, for different reasons. In Sweden, they burn a lot of trash to create energy with it. So they power over 1 million homes. And they have so little trash to burn that they have to import every single year from other countries, 700,000 tons.
Wait a minute, they pay money to buy trash?
They buy trash, they burn it, and they create added value.
Well, sounds very interesting. What about Japan?
In Japan, they don't have many natural resources. So in 2000, they passed a law to recycle their metals from industrial output. So they recycle 98% of all of the metals in the country, so they don't have to import from the global markets.
Well, sounds like a very small way to manage their natural resources and the energy with it. Common sense tells me, with such a great opportunity like that comes with some challenge. Can you tell us some obstacles, if there is any, with the industry?
This market is dependent on the prices in the global commodity markets. So, for example, if we take containerboard, a product of American recycled paper, in 2010 it was selling at over $1,000 a ton in China. Now it's selling at about $400 a ton.
Less than half.
Less than half, and many companies are starting to lose money, requiring expensive government subsidies. So in Europe, these subsidies can be $150 a ton.
So it looks like you need to use caution to look at this market ahead.
Yes, and to carefully choose the options.
Well, speaking of options, looks like there's a huge opportunity with this industry, but what options do we have in order to grow this market?
Well, according to Frost & Sullivan, the consultancy company, this market will greatly grow between 6 and 12% over the next 7 years. Especially demand will be strong in Asia, Africa, and Middle East. Now, if we look at the future markets, collection and recycling will continue to dominate, especially recycling at 12.6% globally. Also in Asia, incineration is an interesting industry to look at because companies need energy, and especially the Japanese companies are pushing new technology to implement it.
Well, sounds like it's a very good market to grab and grow your operations.
And especially what is interesting is because Korean companies have developed certain expertise in construction and demolition, developing markets might be an interesting option to look at. Why? Because they have low technology, low skill, and low barriers to entry.
Well, that sounds very exciting. Well, thank you for your awesome report, Ole.
Thank you.
Artificial intelligence. It's an idea that Hollywood has played around with for decades, creating a world where robots diagnose and treat the injured, arrest the guilty, and even do the housework. But the idea of advanced robots becoming a big part of our daily lives may not be as far off as you think. On today's In Numbers, we'll be taking a look at the world of robots, and while it might not be quite like the movies, modern-day developments are paving the way to a very different future. Now, earlier this year in the city of Pomona, California in the U.S., a team from Korea's KAIST University took home the grand prize of $2 million for the 3-year-long DARPA robotics competition. Funded by the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the competition brought together the world's most advanced robotics researchers from around the world. And KAIST's robot, named DRC Hugo, beat out 22 other robots with its transformer ability and agility that really impressed the judges. Now, it's estimated that by 2025, just in America, we'll be seeing 22.7 million jobs disappear to robots. But with every 10 jobs lost, it will also create 1 new job for humans. This trend towards robot dependency is being seen around the world. Projections for 2013 to 2017 show every major country will up its robot market. Germany will see 21,000 new robots, so a roughly 15% increase. Korea is expecting to see 26,000 new robots, while Japan expects to see 32,000. And North America is forecasting 30 to 6,000 new robots. China, on the other hand, is expecting to see a whopping 174% increase, equating to roughly 100,000 new robots. But where will we see the greatest use of artificial intelligence? Well, telemarketing is the biggest potential market for robots. Almost the entire industry will come to rely on machines. But you'll also see a heavy presence in operating machines and even at pharmacies. On the other hand, professionals like divers, mechanics, and recreational therapists are the least likely to be replaced by robots. Who knows, maybe in 100 years we'll all be out of a job, as it seems artificial intelligence is not afraid of pushing any and all boundaries. Well, that's it for this week's In Numbers. Stay tuned for more insightful information on Korea and the rest of Asia.
Burnt out from working too much and resting too little, 8 out of 10 Koreans suffer from chronic fatigue. While this is bad news for most, some businesses are capitalizing on purpose exhaustion and turning it into an industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So Ms. Arirang is here to tell us more.
That's right. Many businesses, many booming businesses and marketing strategies are targeting those who want to relax and get a relief from constant fatigue, which unfortunately, as you mentioned, it includes most of us. Collectively, the area has been dubbed the fatigue relief industry, and it's been seeing rapid growth. So I went to find out what kind of products and services are leading the trends. Perennially sleep-deprived, overworked and short on time, Koreans are famous for working some of the longest hours among OECD member nations on the least amount of sleep. Being sleep-deprived and under high levels of stress at work, 8 out of 10 Koreans say they feel chronically tired. At a busy commercial area in Seoul, office workers on their lunch break pile into a popular coffee shop. Many have come to use the high-end massage chairs, which the cafe introduced to help customers decompress across all age groups.
안마 의자에 대한 수요도 단순히 가족에서 어르신만을 위한 것이 아니라 온 가족이 함께 쓰는 개념으로 발전하고 있고요. 일본이라든지 아니면 싱가포르 같은, 심지어는 말레이시아나 홍콩 같은 경우에도 가구당 보급률이 10% 이상, 많게는 20% 이상이 됩니다. 그래서 향후 앞으로 10년 동안 안마 의자 시장 자체는 한국은 계속 고속 성장할 것으로 지금 보고 있고요.
The company behind these massage chairs is BodyFriend, which boasts 50% of the local market share. Priced from anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000, these chairs don't come cheap, but more rentals and purchases are pushing sales figures up by the day. Massage chairs are one of the fastest growing fields in the so-called fatigue relief industry. Now, the market in 2007 was worth less than $20 million, but in less than 7 years, it jumped over tenfold to $200 million last year. And this year, it's forecast to top the $250 million mark. The move to cash in on fatigue relief can be seen at the cinemas as well. At around $40, ticket prices here are quadruple that of regular cinemas, but plenty of moviegoers are willing to pay extra to watch in the most comfortable position possible.
그중에도 거의 90% 이상 매진될 만큼 손님의 관심도가 엄청 높고요. 그리고 영화를 보고 난 후에도 손님들이 나가진 않으셔서
The earliest products in the fatigue relief industry were foods and beverages under the health food umbrella. From liver revitalizing pills and energy drinks to vitamin C boosters and elixirs to get over a hangover, there's an endless array of products designed to help consumers get back into optimum condition. Most adults say the number one reason they purchase a health food product is to feel less tired and more energized. Perhaps the most famous of these products is Park Geun-hye, which has been on the market for well over half a century. Dubbed Korea's favorite pick-me-up, Park Geun-hye generated over $190 million in sales last year for its manufacturer Dongha Pharmaceuticals. Over 18 billion bottles have been sold so far, the equivalent to 352 bottles per person.
바카스가 최근에 캄보디아에서 선풍적인 인기를 얻고 수출이 많이 됐어요. 캄보디아에서만 1년에 거의 1억 캔 정도 팔렸으니까 우리나라로 비교해도 엄청나게 이제 많이 팔린 겁니다. 수출을 보면은 선진국이나 이런 데보다는 개발도상국이나 또 이렇게 좀 성장하는 쪽에 많이 포커스를 맞춰서 진출하려고 하고 있습니다.
Also part of the greater fatigue relief industry is the sleep industry. The industry has been growing steadily as more people seek ways to remedy their lack of sleep that comes from extensive hours of studying or working. Including pillows, mattresses and lights, the sleep industry is valued at almost $1 billion. One bedding company runs a sleep lab that helps customers pick out the best equipment to make them sleep better.
연구소에서는 이제 기본적으로 인체와 사람에 대한 이해를 기본으로 더 편안한 잠을 자기 위해서 침구가 가져야 되는 이런 피로 기능성들을 파악하고 그 피로 기능성을 구현하기 위해서 침구 소재 그리고 침구의 구조 그 외에 이런 기타 여러 가지 도구들을 이제 적정하게 발굴하고 그리고 상품으로 접목시키고 제안을 하는 역할을 하고 있습니다.
As more people look for different ways to cut back on stress and fatigue in their daily lives, related goods and services are expected to continue to flood the markets, growing the industry into a field of booming potential.
So it looks like the industry will continue to grow. What other products and services do we see out there?
While in the IT sector, many companies have been coming out with wearable devices that monitor your sleep quality or level of stress. On the medical front, doctors are offering IV shots with antioxidants and micronutrients designed to boost your energy levels. And hospitals have opened up separate sleep and stress relief centers so that patients can better manage their fatigue.
So there's still a lot of potential for growth for both domestic and overseas market, it looks like.
Right.
Are any companies looking at overseas market?
Absolutely. The drink that I mentioned in the report, podcast, that's exported globally to the US, China, Japan, Cambodia. It shipped $30 million worth last year. And high-tech massage chairs are also on the rise to become major exports. Over $84 million worth was exported last year. And recently, stone beds and tubs specialized for lower body baths have also been seeing increased demand from foreign buyers.
I see. Well, it's not all that great to know that fatigue and exhaustion have created such a new market in Korea. However, there are a lot of companies, I'm sure, that see this as a very lucrative opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Arirang, for your report.
My pleasure.
That's all we have on Money Matters. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll bring you plenty of stories as they unfold in Asia and give you a view of the changing landscape of business in the region. I'm Kim Il-sung. Thanks for watching.